President Trump seems to be on board with French President Emmanuel Macron when he suggested a move to a new Iran nuclear deal. But Macron says until that happens, it's best for all those involved to stick with the 2015 agreement. Watch this.
It is true to say that this agreement may not address all concerns, and very important concerns. This is true. But we should not abandon it without having something substantial and more substantial instead. That's my position.
Joining me right now is Fox News strategic analyst General Keane. General, welcome. Well, I think you probably would be for some kind of a new agreement, wouldn't you?
Yes, and so is the president. What's been happening for a number of weeks? First of all, the French president and our president had nothing to do with this deal. They weren't in office, and neither one of them likes it. They both know what the flaws in the deal are. But the issues are, can we get an agreement on a supplemental? And our diplomats have been working with France, with England, and with Germany for some weeks now. We agree on this, on no ballistic missile testing and development. We agree on access to a significant military research site, which we are currently denied having access to with full inspections. Those two things we agree. What we don't agree on is the sunset clauses, which the sunset clauses, for our audience benefit, is by 2025, the deal permits the Iranians to have a nuclear threshold capability that's close to weaponization. 5 years later, they can go to weaponization. And we say no, remove those sunset clauses, keep all those restrictions in place. That's where the disagreement is right now.
You mentioned no ballistic missiles, though. Quite recently, Iran said, yeah, we're not getting rid of our ballistic missiles until you, the United States, and Europe get rid of yours, which we know is not going to happen. So is Iran kind of in a bad place as they come to the negotiation table here? And they're not even at the table, I should point out. But as we try and embark on some of these changes, General, can Iran ever get there when they're being as unrealistic as saying, yeah, you guys get rid of your ballistic missiles and then we'll talk?
Well, if we were able to get this supplemental agreement that we're talking about, and by the way, just as an editorial comment, I'm hoping that Director Pompeo gets confirmed as quickly as possible, because I really think that he could make a difference in these negotiations, as well as what he'll truly make a difference with North Korea as well. We can get him in that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because the idea that he went all the way to North Korea and he's trying to make a difference there, and you've got some political hacks trying to hold up his nomination. It's going forward, of course, on Thursday, was a bit mind-boggling to me, but it sounds like it will happen, sir, on Thursday. So with him in place, what can he do for Iran?
Well, I just think with our European allies first, he may have a little bit more leverage and clout than what our diplomats had because of his close association with the president, et cetera. The second thing is, with the Iranians themselves, we would do this supplemental exclusive of them, then go back to them and renegotiate a better deal than what we have right now. They could walk away from that table and say, no, thank you. And then, at that point, we're back in the driver's seat with sanctions again, and we're back on a moral high ground. So that's a strong position if we can get there. I think if the Europeans do not agree with us, then the president will likely walk away from the deal as it's currently constructed, you know, not waive the sanctions, send that back to the Congress, and we will impose sanctions on the Iranians, not with the Europeans, but with ourselves. And I suspect that the president will not impose sanctions on the European companies that are doing business with the Iranians, because they are allies. It remains to be seen what...
But the American companies would be affected then.
Yeah, yes. And certainly there's a lot of things going on with Iranians in the international financial market that we can also have some impact on. I think the rhetoric that's coming...
I just want to restate that, General, because I think that's a pretty big deal, sir, what you just said. In other words, if the Europeans and our president do not come to an agreement on this is stressing why it is so important that they do, then our president will walk away from this deal?
I suspect he will, yes. We don't know that for a fact, but he stated it. And he has a tendency to do what he says. So I think that's the path that's the path we're on. And certainly Director Pompeo at the CIA, now Secretary of State, and the National Security Advisor have been on record supporting that pathway forward. I don't believe the Iranians, with all the rhetoric and hysterical rhetoric that's coming out of there, if we came to a supplemental deal, I don't think they would necessarily just walk away, because the economic ties that they have been able to increase as a result of removal of sanctions and the business that they're doing in Europe and with Asia, to a lesser degree with the United States, obviously, I don't think they necessarily will just throw that away, because they already have the money, Trish.
Look, I think sanctions work, General. I think we've seen them work with North Korea. I think that they're working with China. I think that sanctions work if they're done right.
And too many people are comforted by the inspection protocol that we have, in the sense that they believe that the Iranians are not cheating, despite the fact that they have always cheated. And most of us who have been at this for some time believe that that's why we want to get at this one research military site, because we suspect that's where the cheating is really going on.
Well, I hope we get there. General, thank you. Good to have your perspective as always. General Keane, everyone.